Hello! Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Love is a Battlefield podcast. My name is Natalie Moore and thank you for tuning in. Now, this is the first episode, so we're all like, what is going on? Whose voice is this? And what are we all doing here? So I'm Natalie, as I said, and I am a DV survivor, and by survivor, I mean literally by a hair. Sounds dramatic, but that will be a bit of a story time for another time. I'm a registered nurse for many years. I won't say how many because it makes me feel really old. In the last few years of those very, very many years, I specialised in mental health and became a mental health practitioner. I'm also a bit of a bogan and an ADHD goofball at times. Apologies if I waffle on, but hopefully the ADHD has its advantages, and what bores me very, very easily will bore you too, so there'll be lots of editing, let me tell you. So let's get moving on. So come and journey with me as we explore weekly topics around DV terminology, the stuff I never knew when I needed to know it, like red flags, crazy making, circle talk, and more. Also, how to navigate and survive the dating world in both its beauty and disaster. So not all bad, not all bad. I don't want to sit here being all negative. We can have fun too and share experiences and share stories, spill the tea, as well as learn things that I wish I knew when I went through some stuff. Because honestly, I came out and I was looking for information, and what I've learned over time, I've got from here, from there, from everywhere. But I've never found one source that had it all. And also I wanted to hear someone talking to me. I didn't want to feel alone. And I didn't want some professor talking to me. I wanted to hear it from someone who'd been there, but also has an education background and a career background that supports what they're saying. So here I am. Hi, it's me. Hi, I am. Actually, no, I'm not the problem. It's not your fault. I do this in the hope that maybe, just maybe, it will help one person get out sooner than they could have in the DV kind of thing. Or it'll just be a place for us to all vent and have a good time. And you learn things. When I hear other people's stories about their life, I learn things. So let's just share. Let's get on with the fun. So hi, I'm taking a deep breath because I really want to start by sharing some of what I've been through. And it's a lot. And it is scary to share. It's the first public place that I have ever shared about it. There is so much I'd be chewing your ear off days if I was to tell you all the crazy things I had been through. So I've decided to drop it now and then when topics come up with the vibe, where the mood takes us, but then other times intentionally think of something and share it. But I thought I can't just go in and say, right, we're going to start with topics and talk about this and that without actually spilling some tea, having some story time and giving you a little bit of, just a little taste of what I've actually been through, so you know that I'm not some, can you hear that? Sirens. I'm locked in a cupboard. By choice this time, I might add. That's actually happened to me. And I don't know why I'm laughing, because by saying that out loud, it's actually embarrassing, because I still have those voices of the perpetrator saying, it's your fault, it's your fault. And I'm thinking, if I tell people he did that, they'll think I'm so annoying I had to be locked in a cupboard. I mean, yeah, I'm fun and silly, but I'm definitely not needing to be locked in a cupboard, stalked, or nearly murdered. Anyway, speaking of, let's get into a little bit of that tea. I don't know why I sound chipper. I think I've got to a stage where I can speak it without feeling it and breaking down crying, which is good, because it's really embarrassing when you start crying because your voice goes all weird and you can't speak. Then you're like, I'm so glad I can convey some major traumas. So if I do sound like I'm being lied about it, I'm not. It is serious. It's messed up. It's horrible. It has had a huge impact. But sometimes the easiest way to deal with things is to just get the words out any way you can and then let people process on their end. So if I do sound chipper, I'm not, but I don't want to be all draining and sad and whatnot. So here we go. I'll just give you a little bit of story time. So As I said, I'm educated. I have a career with mental health, with nursing. I've done many, many DV courses. I've done a lot of DV research, and I've had my own experiences. Unfortunately, I've had one major, nearly lost my life, and that person did a lot of major things. But I have experienced DV from men more than once. It's taken me a long time and a lot of therapy to be able to say this following sentence. No, it's not my fault. No, I'm not a nagger or aggressive or any of the lies abusers tell to justify their act. I am none of the things. I have some lovely exes who I still know and who can back me up that it's not me. I am not Taylor Swifting when it comes to DV. It's not me. Bye. I'm not the problem. It's not me. The reason I know this and can now say it is because I was going into the relationship with the last person who did very bad things. I was educated about DV, red flags, everything. I had vetted them and everything. And I knew a lot. And I was very aware of victim blaming and the language men and abusers use around justifying and getting away with what they do. And I was very conscious in the moments where I was being abused. I would not engage at all. I consciously tried different reactions to the abusive behaviour. The abusive behaviour commenced with no trigger. It was very random. Everything was fine because it was all pre-planned and calculated. I later found out it was all part of the plan, even before he chose me to be that person. And so I was able to ignore, shut down, not engage, speak like I would to a patient in a very firm but logical, kind manner. I was able to be nice and warm and friendly. I tried every possible reaction to the abusive behaviour. Nothing changed his behaviour. I knew for 100% certain fact from that, and being so conscious of that it is not the victim's fault. There is nothing you can or can't do or say that any differently that would have changed what they did. They have a plan. It's power and control. It's a lot of things. They're not well, and it's not your fault. So the last DV I've been through, I nearly died. And by nearly died, I mean I was seconds away from death. It sounds so weird to say it out loud. I want you to know the information. It's like I want to put it on a USB and put the USB in your head and you just know it, because actually saying it feels weird to say out loud because it's so full on. I really nearly died. I was being strangled, not choked. I now know the difference. I did not really understand the difference then, and I'll go into that in another episode. It had gone on for that long that I got to the point of accepting, okay, I'm going now. This is it. And I was ready to leave. I did not want to. But when you are being murdered and you're dying, you get to this point of going, yep, okay, I'm going now. This is it. And there's like peace then. This real peaceful feeling and acceptance. And then that's when I survived. And afterwards I had this overwhelming feeling that I was supposed to die that night. Like overwhelming, almost euphoric that, wow, I'm not meant to be living this life right now. Like this, I can't explain it. Some weird juju thing, some feeling, really don't understand. So that whole, I feel like I was meant to die. It sounds so dramatic. And I'm really sorry that it sounds so dramatic and messed up because it is all shades of effed up. It's a lot. So let's move on. They went to prison. Yes, they went to prison. I got justice in Australia, which is, anyone who understands the justice system as a victim of crime knows how difficult it is to get justice. You literally need I did CCTV with audio. The audio is them discussing what they're doing to you and holding you hostage and your head injuries and all this stuff. So I had overwhelming, not, beyond reasonable doubt. It was, there's a video. That's the evidence I needed. And so they did go to prison. And that is the reason I'm sitting here now and I have a voice. Because if you have not got a conviction, if you're a victim of crime, you haven't got a conviction, you actually can't speak about it because you can get sued for defamation. That's how victims are silenced. And it's really frustrating. So I'm allowed to speak on what happened because there were lots of charges and lots of different things that happened, and all convicted, guilty, and served in prison. That's all I'm going to share right now. That's a lot. It's just a little taster, a little something of what's to come. I mean, I would be happy to sit here and spill the tea for hours of details of how I ended up nearly dying because I was like held hostage and what that looked like to be and then escaping. That one event is a massive episode in itself, and I really look forward to sharing it in that I know I'd want to hear that if I were you, but it's just not episode 1. And it sounds petty too to just go on about it episode 1 like I'm vengeful, I'm against them. I mean, they did really bad things, but I'm not here for that reason. So let's get on to today's topic. Now, today's topic, episode 1, it's boring. Things bore me easily, but it's important. As I said, I've done DV courses, and in those courses, there were so many survivors who were saying, is that DV? Really? I didn't know that. Well, mine did that too. Why would they have done the same thing? And we're like, that's DV. It's textbook. This is the actual term for that behaviour. And they're like, what? I didn't know that was DV. And they came into the course not knowing what DV was. And these women had been linked in with the DV service and everything. And part of leaving is the education and the knowledge that what's happening is not right. It is illegal. It is a crime, and you've got to do something about it. You've got to leave and save your life. I'm so glad that they got out of that situation, but I realised what is DV? That first question is actually not known by so many people who are living it every day of their lives. So let's start official. We've got the WHO, the World Health Organization. Now, do you know? No, you don't, because I'm going to tell you now. The WHO does not call it domestic violence. They call it violence against women. Oh, I can just hear the patriarchy screaming at me. What about men? I move on. So I'm going to read it to you, what they have said. The WHO, the World Health Organization. Now, the World Health Organization, as you'd probably know, international, they can't post random opinions on the internet. Everything they post has to have evidence base behind it. And this is what they say. They don't call it domestic violence, they call it violence against women. Violence against women, particularly intimate partner violence and sexual violence, is a major public health problem and violation of women's human rights. Major public health problem. They've also written, estimates published by WHO indicate that 1 in 3 women worldwide have been subjected to either physical or sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence in their lifetime. Most of this violence is intimate partner violence. Worldwide, almost 1/3 of women aged 15 to 49 years who have been in a relationship report that they have been subjected to some form of physical and or sexual violence by their intimate partner. Violence can negatively affect women's physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health and may increase the risk of acquiring HIV in some settings. Violence against women is preventable. The health sector has an important role to play to provide comprehensive care to women subjected to violence and as an entry point for referring women to other support services they may need. So that's what the WHO says. Now, they've gone on to say this other bit that's pretty important. Intimate partner violence refers to behaviour by an intimate partner or ex-partner that causes physical, sexual or psychological harm, including physical aggression, sexual coercion, psychological abuse and controlling behaviours. Thank you, WHO. So, my message through this to anyone sitting there right now going, oh, he hasn't been physical, he hasn't hit me, it's not really DV unless they hit you. From someone who literally got beaten to a pulp, has been through the worst, most horrific, constantly bruised physical abuse, has been sexually abused, has had all of it. I am telling you, the psychological side is the worst. The psychological abuse, the coercive control. The WHO here has recognised that as violence against women. So never, ever doubt yourself. If it feels wrong, it's wrong. Now, they've also written sexual violence is, listen to this, get this, this is really good. Any sexual act, attempt to obtain a sexual act, or other act directed against a person's sexuality using coercion by any person, regardless of their relationship to the victim, in any setting. It includes rape, defined as the physically forced or otherwise coerced penetration of the vulva or anus with a penis, other body part or object, attempted rape, unwanted sexual touching, and other non-contact forms. Did you hear that coercing someone is rape? Manipulating someone, brainwashing someone, guilt tripping, blackmailing, When a woman says no, that's the end of the conversation. It's a new thing people are saying, or women are saying. It's the end of the conversation. It's not the point where you start negotiating. When you push and push, it doesn't mean physically pushed down and physically forced. It can mean a lot of things. And yes, this has happened, but that's not the story. Definitely not the story time for today. So that's the who. I also looked at Google. If you just type domestic violence into Google, it comes up with 3 points. 1, physical abuse of a household member, especially one spouse or domestic partner. 2, violence against another in an intimate relationship such as marriage or dating. And 3, listen to this, violence or physical abuse directed toward your spouse or domestic partner, usually violence by men against women. Every page on the internet that has to be formally backed up by evidence-based research say it's the majority women that are the victims. But that's going to be a whole other... I'm going to actually discuss that sometime, but that's a big thing. That's opening a kettle of worms. It's worms, isn't it? I was going to say kettle of fish. So... what's my take on all this? I think DV is, it's not always physical. It's more like those moments when they do or say something and your heart sinks. You know that feeling when your heart sinks and you feel sick and you start to panic and start to think, no, he loves me. He wouldn't do this. Why did he just do that? I know him. He isn't the kind of person who would do that. Why did he do that? It's not him. Then your brain works overtime to find an excuse to justify it and minimize it. That is right, perpetrators. We justify it. We minimize it. We make the excuses. We gaslight ourselves. We don't need help in that area. No one wants to realize they're being abused because there's so much stigma that you got hit for a reason. Ever since I got justice, I'm still very, very quiet about what happened to me. And I watch my P's and Q's because if I showed any anger in any setting and anyone in that setting knew that I'd been through DV, you know what they're going to say. They're going to say, I can see why he hit you. Because that's what society, i.e. we call it now the patriarchy, and men and have been telling us for years to silence us. It's not your fault. And it's okay that we do that. It's okay that we try and justify it. That is literally how the brain works. It's neuroscience. We are protecting ourselves and our person that we love. We love them. By educating ourselves on what is and what isn't DV is what we need to do when this happens. DV doesn't happen at the start of a relationship. I'll say it again louder for those at the back. DV and abuse and all this stuff and all these behaviours doesn't start at the start of the relationship. Do you actually think survivors of domestic violence, when we met them, do you think they hit us on the first date and went, did you like that? Oh, yes, sign me up for more. Or do you think they did it on the 4th date, the 5th date, or a few weeks in? No, I will tell you, they are the most sweet, kindest, honest, loyal, intelligent, loving partner you have ever met. You can vet them and check and do what I did and get friends to interview them and colleagues. And many are master manipulators who will literally, and I mean literally, say and do the exact same script and exact same actions that a nice, decent, non-abusive guy will say and do for months and months into a relationship. Some even do it for years. There is no way you can know if the person you are with is abusive at the start. They do not tell you. They don't have a sign or it written on their forehead. They don't start hitting you from the first date or even months in. They do it covertly, slowly. They intentionally build trust and dependence before they start consciously, very consciously, that's the disturbing, icky part, changing their behaviours to reveal their true self. Now, I'm going to have an upcoming episode on the neurological side and how they create dependence and love from you is what's known as trauma bond. Love bombing, you might have heard of that. Trauma bond, you might have heard of that. You might not have, but these are neurological things that they do to set up a dependence on them. And more like, it's kind of like an addiction. And it's literally neuroscience. So day one, you're not addicted to them. You just like the way they're treating you. Their behaviours are really nice. They're a great guy. It's not until later down the track that slowly all these behaviours come out. Now, as I was saying, the one who nearly murdered me and went to prison, I had vetted. That means like checked out and cross-examined for any red flag. I was not going to go into a relationship like that. I was not going to put up with that. So I had even had him interviewed and checked out. Not interviewed like sit down formally, but met family and friends before I really let go and let the relationship commence. He passed every hurdle. No one knew. And these are friends who previously laughed at me and mocked me for choosing bad guys. Oh, why do you always choose bad guys and stuff like that? And they'd said to me, right, we'll pick the next one. And I said, okay, at the start when I meet someone, I'm going to get you to meet them ASAP and check them out. And I don't care what it is, the smallest thing, you will tell me. And they promised they'd tell me and, oh, we can tell. They helped, well, tried to help, and they didn't see anything. They encouraged me to chill the hell out and trust him and continue to date this person. Why us? Why me then? Am I the problem? Am I the reason he targeted me? Well, that's a future episode. And I guess childhood stuff, vulnerability comes into that. But even so, these people who were in loving relationships, these friends in loving long-term marriages, chose him. So these women who had chosen well for themselves chose him for me. So even they were fooled. So it's not me choosing that's the problem. It's not me as a person that's the problem. Both of these, there were two main women who vetted him. There was also a man. Both the women had experienced sexual or DV violence or both in their life. They both disclosed different instances of that because they're women. And most women have been through things like that. Unfortunately, to say that, it's horrible. But they had married really, really good men. And even they couldn't see through it. Now, I don't say any of this to freak you out or turn you against dating. You know, it sounds a bit defeatist, like you can't ever know. Nothing you can do can prevent them. Now, that one was a master manipulator. And from the behaviors, you've probably heard the term narcissist. This one was displaying behaviors above that on the scale of antisocial personality disorder. They were more displaying the psychopathic behaviors with the planning, the calculating, and the way they switched on this absolute nice, normal bloke, charming guy. It's really creepy and full on. So yes, it can happen. It can certainly happen, but love is worth it. Not being alone is worth it. At the same time, abuse, negative 1,000,000 out of 10. Do not recommend. No, so don't be freaked out. But as the podcast title, unless I get in trouble for using it, like I've literally searched for a podcast with this same name and found none. And then I to set up an email and I was the only one. I didn't even have to put numbers after it and other social media. And then I went on like one small social media platform and there was someone with that name as the Love is Blind podcast. And I'm like, I have literally combed the earth to make sure I was the only one with that name. And then this random account on social media. And I'm like, so where are they if they're not on podcast services that I can find? Am I going to get in trouble? What's going on? So I don't know. If I have to change a title, I've got another idea. It's a bit wordy, but it's a good play on words. I love a play on words. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling what it is. Keep that close to my heart. I have trust issues. You're not going to find out. I'm not telling people anything. They have trust issues. I don't know where they came from. So, did that make sense? I feel like I just waffled about some topic. I do that. Apologies, but hashtag get used to it. That's what DV is. It's a brief insight into a little taste of what happened. One dramatic kind of thing. I didn't even really go into detail about how I ended up Yeah, it's a long story. It'll happen. But that I nearly was killed and I did get justice. And what is DV? And what else did we cover? We talked about vetting people and how it's not your fault. It's not who you choose. Sometimes you just can't pick it. And how people who haven't been through it don't know that day one, they don't have these crappy behaviours. Because people go, I would never date anyone like that. I have heard nurses saying nasty things about patients who are victims of DV, not knowing that sitting right next to them, someone was actively being abused. And I've overheard them saying things like, why don't they leave? Like, I would never put up with that. Like, there's something wrong with her. Not understanding literal neuroscience and what's going on. And that person, like, they don't reveal any of those behaviors until they know they've got you, like, where you can't, like, you're married or you've just had a kid or you've moved house. You know, you're really in love with them as well. Like they wait till it's harder to leave before the slightest little behaviors. Not too much, just like, and slowly bring it from there to the point where it's so gradual that you don't even see it happening. But then the next minute you're on the floor injured and you're like, wait, how did I get here? What? And you try and leave, and then we'll get into that another time. What happens when you try and leave and they say no? Fun for the whole family, said no one ever. Excuse the sarcasm. There's going to be a lot of like me mixing in humor as a coping mechanism. If you don't like that, well, I guess you'll have to find the other Love is a Battlefield podcasts wherever the hell that's hiding, because that's how it's going to be. So as part of this podcast, there's also something else we're going to do where people can email in, listeners, hopefully there are some people letting me in their ear holes, and they can email in and they can ask questions about love and like relationship advice. Oh, what I was going to call it was question or spill. It sounds so lame. If you could think of something else, help me, help a sister out. It's going to be question or spill. Question or spill. Do you have a question or do you want to spill the tea? It doesn't rhyme and it's really lame. Basically, you can email in for relationship advice. You've got a question about DV, any kind of aspect of it. Question, it doesn't have to be DV related. It can be like, this man ain't crap, or is he crap, or hey, I just met someone I'm really excited. Do you think it's, I don't know. Look, I'm not going to sit here making assumptions. You can just email in anything you like, questions. You can share a story, have a story time, spill some tea. So the email address, are you ready? Do we get pens these days? No. Open your notes app. That's what I do. I open my notes app or I take screenshots of things. I don't know if I can write. I don't even know where this is going to end up. So I don't even know if I can write it somewhere. If I can, I will make sure I do. But it's pretty easy to remember. Love is a Battlefield podcast at gmail.com. No numbers, no underscores, nothing fancy. Just love is a Battlefield podcast at gmail.com. All the misogynists and abusers look forward to the mail. Really looking forward to being told to kill myself and being abused, and really being that good dopamine release for you as you like get your rocks off abusing a woman. Really can't wait, said no one ever. So but that's part of it. They like to out themselves. Whenever a woman has a voice, it angers them. They want to shut us up. They don't want to stop getting away with this. They want to keep things as they are and not change society and not give us a voice and not keep us safe and stop murdering us and stuff. So it angers them. So they come out of the woodwork, like little, what comes out of woodwork? Termites? Little, or how rats come out at night. Not to be like mean to rats. I feel sorry for rats, comparing them to perpetrators of violence against women. But yeah, that's actually offensive to rats. Sorry, rats. So anyway, because it's the first episode, I had to ask friends if they had any question or teacher spill, because, well, obviously no one's emailed in because it didn't exist. So I did get one. I got one, guys. So I've changed the names of her and her husband. So we're calling her Sophie, and it's not DV related, which is good after all that we shared before. I shared, not you. You didn't share. But it was a moment we had together. It was beautiful. It's magical. Anyway, moving on. It is nice to have a break after all the heavy things we've discussed, so let's shake it off. All right. It's a massive email, so I have summarised it. We'll say her husband's name is Greg. Good old Greg. Greg, I just love good old Greg. Greg works in the mines. He's a FIFO. If you don't know FIFO, it's fly in, fly out. Schedules can be like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. She said that is his schedule. And the night that he comes home is Wednesday, fortnight. Weird, middle of the week, but anyway. And that's been happening for years. And recently, like a few months ago, it changed to Thursday nights. And he said, well, that's overtime that he has to do because he's currently sucking up for this promotion. And if he gets it, he gets his whole new job title. He gets heaps of more money. Everything changes and they're about to have a baby. So she was keen for that. So he started coming home one night later. So it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks and 1 day. No, 2 weeks and 1 day on, 13 days off. And that went on for months. Then the last few is changed to Fridays. He's now staying 2 nights overtime. He came home and said, I got the promotion. It's got this new job title. He's not even doing anything remotely like he was before. She tried to explain it in the message, But it was really confusing. I don't want to confuse you any more than my random brain jumping all over the subjects is already doing. And a much higher income. So she has no reason not to trust him at this point. They've been together since they were both 19. They're the same age. Cute. They're 24 now. He wanted to work the mines just a couple of years to get cash for a house, but he ended up staying on because the cash is really good. Now, we all know it's tax time right now, don't we? How much is that $1,500 extra, or whatever the government's done, to anyone earning 40 to 90 grand, or whatever the bracket is? How much is that giving you the craps? Like, I'm not even getting into it. I'm not even going there, but you can hear it. You can hear him. I want to. Like, tax time this year, we all know it's tax time and we're feeling it because now the government wants us to pay. I was saying years ago in COVID when they were giving out money and interest rates were really low, I was like, they're going to put interest rates up. And they're going to also find another way they're going to get this money back. They don't just give out money at COVID. Like, they're going to get this money back with interest. It's going to happen. Interest rates went up and now they've taxed us an extra, apparently, I think I read $1,500 each. So we've paid that money back with interest. And people who should not be owing tax are owing a lot of tax. And I haven't heard of anyone getting a return, an actual return yet. But I'm sure there's a few out there. They've got good things to claim. I can never claim anything, really. So anyway, tax time. There's a tangent for you. It's tax time. And she has noticed something. He was getting all his paperwork out, ready to try and see if he's going to get a return. And it was on the table. He printed it out. He printed out a pay slip, the most recent one from like only a couple of weeks ago. And it showed the same job title and the exact same income as it did months and months ago before the promotion. And he had been quite specific when he told her about the income. He'd said, it's this much, my pay's going to go up this much, my pay slip will go up this much, I've got this job title. He'd given very specific details, and on this latest one, it's not the end of year thing, in the latest pay slip that happened to be sitting there, she saw that same job title, same income, no changes. She's like, that's weird. What's going on? Is he lying? I mean, he said that, and he even talked about, oh, I've got this extra cash and yada, yada, yada. So she asked us, this is the question, should I check his bank account? Should she get her detective hat on and check messages or something else? Could something be happening? Because she now knows he's been lying about his job situation changing, his income changing. And I know you're all thinking something, and some are like, no way. Nah. It's a private thing. You got to trust him. Don't go snooping. And someone's saying, yes, girl, that is sus. And you now, because of that evidence, have a right. Oh, I did forget to add, she has asked him if anything's going on as well. And he denied it and changed the subject. So she has communicated and done the right thing and gone to him. So should she get a detective hat on? Now, you can't answer. Well, I can't hear your answer. But I can almost hear the shouts of, it's his privacy. You're a psycho if you go through his phone and his things. How dare you? You know, I have this feeling that men have convinced us that it's rude and psycho to look for evidence when we suspect we're being cheated on. It's become socially unacceptable and shameful for someone to do that. So many women who have done this, and yes, they were being cheated on, always apologize or have shame whenever they're describing how they found out. It's like they've set up a world where we are shamed for that. I mean, hear me out. If you're looking every day, you shouldn't be. That means there's trust issues and maybe you shouldn't be in that relationship, or you've got to explore what's actually going on, because that's not healthy. But if you, and also, sorry, I want to add to that. The relationship might not be. It's a bit stalky, rude and intrusive to constantly be looking. So don't be constantly looking. That's stalky. It's wrong. Don't be constantly looking. It's stalky and it's wrong. But once certain prerequisite boxes have been ticked, such as when she communicated her concerns and several pieces of evidence, it gets to the point where you have to choose. Are you in this relationship and you're just going to stay and have this feeling that it's a fake relationship and he's got something else going on? Also, you got to think about diseases and stuff. Or are you going to be honest and real with yourself and him and bring it to the surface to make an informed decision going forward? So my answer is, hell yes, you're going to look. The boxes being ticked are, he's working late, and in this case, days late. It went from 1 extra day to 2 extra nights, not just days and nights. He lied about the job title change. He lied about the income change. Not that, and don't think the money's like, she's like, I need that extra money. It's not about the money. It's about just that feeling, that sinking feeling you get in your gut when you see that. And because he had bragged to her about, oh, my last pay slip, you should have seen it. It said this much. And I love seeing like this job title written. Like he had gone into detail about his pay slips changing, the amounts and everything. He had given her information that was incorrect. He had been lying. She brought it up. He changed the subject and denied it. So we're ticking the boxes that he's working late. He's increased the amount he's working late. He's lied about the job title change. He's lied about the income change. She's communicated it and confronted the concerns. And I believe all of that is enough evidence for a single check. One little detective run. So yes, do it. So FYI, side note, I've told her that I would say this just before today. She told me. I said that. I already told her, like, do it. So sorry for all the people that say don't do it, because I said do it. And she's going to check out what's happening tonight. I'm so nervous for her. And possibly confront him or at a minimum raise her concerns with him again. Like, if she finds nothing, she'll still like raise her concerns because it's this niggling feeling going on. So I have asked her for an update ASAP and hopefully, fingers crossed, before the next episode. And honestly, friend or not, I honestly hope that she is not being cheated on. And there is an honest explanation for this. There's nothing, I'd like to say there's nothing worse. But there is worse. Like being cheated on it's one of the worst things. Like it's so bad. It's so horrible. And that pain in your gut and your sinking feeling when you find out, ugh. It's horrible. Yeah. No, I don't wish it on anyone. So anyway, on that cheery, not so fun note, that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in and consenting for your ear holes to have my podcast inside them, because it's always about consent. I appreciate you and wish you all amazing, honest, and healthy relationships. Always keep it real. Cheerio!